Alrighty, so final news of the week episode of 2023. It's hard to believe that 2024 is in 2 days, but in terms of the remaining video I'll made in 2023, I might make another moving forward series episode and the last one in 2023 before the new year, depending on if I have time. And then tomorrow I'll make the final video of 2023 on my channel, and of course that is looking back at my 15 favorite moments that happen in MLS or involving MLS team that is. But in terms of this last couple of days, well, goalkeeping seems like was a big story as this kind of came out of nowhere, but it was announced that LAFC has officially signed Hugo Lloris from Tottenham. And the reason why I say it's kind of came out of nowhere is that, there was a report about a day or two ago, the fact that, LAFC looked like they were going to sign Hugo Lloris. And when I first read it, I didn't think it was going to be true because I talked about how Austin and when they decided to sign Stephon Cleveland, that was kind of a weird signing because Austin already had a decent goalkeeper on Brad Stewart, and unless if they're trying to create a goalkeeping competition or maybe go through a bit of a revolving door with the goalkeeping position throughout the season, there was really no need for them to bring in a guy that is desperate to look for some minutes and step out the shadow of Stephen Fry. And this is kind of the same thing. Hugo Lloris, don't get me wrong, he's probably one of the most underrated goalkeeper and probably one of the most underappreciated goalkeeper in the world. I mean, when you talk about some of the best goalkeeper in the world, it's hard to believe that Hugo Lloris haven't been mentioned too much, despite the fact that he is still the number one goalkeeper for France, and that he was part of that French team that won the World Cup in 2018, and he's been with Tottenham pretty much almost throughout his career, and no doubt the best goalkeeper that Tottenham Hotspur has ever had in their club history. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that he decided to come to MLS. I mean, I didn't think that he was gonna come to MLS. I thought he was gonna finish his career with Tottenham or maybe even finish in his boyhood club in France. But yeah, LAFC decided to snatch him up. And again, it's kind of weird because they've already have Maxime Crepeau, and that this does gets interesting to see. If you're Maxime Crepeau, this has to be frustrating because you play your tails off after last season after coming back from a broken leg, and that you could argue he was definitely one of the better goalkeeper in the league and still is a high tier goalkeeper in this league, and you're potentially going to be replaced by a guy that is pretty much winding down his career. I mean, Hugo Lloris, he's actually in his late 30s, and even though I know goalkeepers are they have longer longevity, and I feel like Hugo Lloris might still have a couple more year left in the tank before he might think about retirement. But yeah, again, it feels like it's an unnecessary move, but at the same time, when I've also heard that it seems like they were able to bring him and get him on a $300,000 contract, which is just insane. How cheap they were able to get him. Yeah, LAFC they could not resist the offer, and now it's also going to be interesting to see. I would assume Hugo Lloris has to be a number one. I mean, you don't bring a big name kind of player like him to just put him on the bench, and goalkeeping is one of those positions where you can't really kind of have like just a revolving door like a backup player step in sort in some games because as I mentioned before, when it comes to goalkeeping, and if you're a team that has a revolving door in terms of goalkeeping situation, it's not really a good thing to have. So yeah, again, I feel like Hugo Lloris is going to be the number one. Maxime Crepeau is going to be a number two, which is just that's criminal. The fact that Maxime Crepeau is a second choice goalkeeper, because I would argue that he can start on any team right now in MLS, Maxime Crepeau, and I will not be surprised that there is going to be some teams that is going to look to try to get Maxime Crepeau. And also, I wonder what Maxime Crepeau reaction is going to be. He's probably not going to be happy. The fact that he's going to be playing second in fiddle after all the hard works he has had, and I will not be surprised that there might be teams that are looking to try to get him, and especially after what happened to him in Vancouver and the fiasco that he kind of created in Vancouver. I'm surprised that he might think about forcing him way out of LAFC and maybe joining another MLS team, or even maybe go overseas and play in Europe, because he is a guy that is going to become the Canadian national team number one in turn, so the goalkeeping position, because I think Bojan for Canada, he started to age out to a point where that's kind of now the spot that Mexican Crepeau has. Now, speaking of goalkeepers, so another goalkeeper from LAFC that is kind of in question after this move is John McCarthy. So now John McCarthy is basically being as a third string, but it seems like he's not going to be a third string anymore because the LA Galaxy have acquired him off of free agency. Now, obviously, he was never going to be a third string. He actually wasn't signed with a new contract for LAFC, but the fact that he decided to go to the LA Galaxy. Oh boy, it seems like we have a Raheem Edwards situation all over again. Decided to play on both sides of El Trafico, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happened. I mean, if you're an LAFC fan, this has to hurt because John McCarthy. After this move, you're supposed to hate him because he decided to go to the other side of the El Trafico, but you kind of can't because he's the guy that literally won you the MLS Cup. I mean, I know Gareth Bale, of course, got that equalizer late to send it to the PK shootout, but the unsung hero has to be John McCarthy in that MLS Cup, saving those PKs and win them their only MLS Cup as of this recording, and that yeah, this feels like a very sour taste of a lot of LAFC fans' mouth to see their hero decided to depart for their biggest rival. And now it's also kind of interesting, with John McCarthy going to the Galaxy. I talk about LAFC having a goalkeeping competition. The same could go with the Galaxy because Jonathan Bond. I didn't think he was very good last season, and that is John McCarthy maybe good enough to be a number one. I mean, at times the last season John McCarthy was good, but I don't think he was great. I don't think he is considered to be a top tier goalkeeper. I think he's probably right around the same range as Jonathan Bond. So it's gonna be interesting to see the goalkeeping situation in both LA team as we go through the season because again, this Hugo Lloris signing has really thrown off everything in terms of what we talked about goalkeeping, and I don't think I haven't seen in an off season where this we have this kind of goalkeeping in saga and drama that has been especially involving one city and their two teams, that is. Now, speaking of the Galaxy, they have decided to trade Tyler Boyd to Nashville SC in exchange for 775 general allocation money and to international spot. First of all, I think that's a good move for Nashville because Tyler Boyd, he's a very hardworking kind of player, has that good work ethic, and I would say that no minus Ricky Pooch, I think he's probably one of the more important player for the Galaxy in that midfield. And that this is why it's also kind of questionable why they decided to let him go. I mean, the amount that they got back is pretty good as well. I mean, the 775,000 general allocation rating sounds about right, and the two international spot that they got for that sounds also about right. But again, this feels like they didn't need to make this move. They could have easily kept him and have a really decent midfield. I mean, the Galaxy, well, their strength is definitely their midfield. So again, this is kind of interesting that they decided to let go of one of their best midfielder. But if you're Nashville, or actually not midfielder, I'm sorry, he's actually a winger. I don't know. Just ignore what I've said about him being a winger. He's definitely one of the. I'll just say he's definitely one of the more better attacking option that the Galaxy has had. And again, for Nashville, that would be an instant upgrade because when you look at the winger situation for Nashville, I mean, Randall Leao has really not lived up to expectation and has pretty much gone down the hill as the year goes along. And then Jacob Schaffelberg, although he is a very speedy guy and can really help this Nashville team on the counterattack, I feel like he's kind of a player that is kind of very speedy, but that's kind of about it. He's kind of more like a one trick kind of pony. He doesn't really do well in terms of delivery of the ball in the box as what you would expect a winger should be able to do. And I feel like for Tyler Boyd, he offer more of that, and not to mention good work ethics. I think that's something that we usually see Gary Smith loves with his players, and I think this would fit perfectly for Nashville. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps, they have signed Damir Kreilach off of free agency. So you talk about LAFC fans feel very has a sour taste of their mouth seeing their hero of winning their only MLS Cup going to their biggest rival. I think for RSL fan, they probably have the same feeling because they were hoping that maybe Damir Kreilach is gonna either go back to his native country in Croatia or just decided to retire, but not go to another MLS team, and especially a Western Conference team. But for the Whitecaps, this is a good signing because for the Whitecaps. This is definitely a signing that, I know Demir Kralek hasn't really been the same. That back injury that he suffered has really took a toll to him, and not to mention the fact that he is kind of starting to go for a bit of a decline. But still, this is a big signing for the Whitecaps, especially get some more depth on this team, and that this is a Whitecaps team that I think under any certainty, do not be surprised this team could be a contender in the Western Conference. I mean, last year was just kind of a prologue of what they can be. I think now that they're starting to get stronger, and especially if the Ryan Gaul and Brian White combination continue to be very strong, watch out. This is a Whitecaps team that can definitely make noise heading into next season. Minnesota. So they have announced that they have loaned Ethan Bristo off or actually not off of a free agency. They actually loaned him to Stockport uh, County. They didn't release him, even though I'm pretty sure a lot of Loons fans are hoping that that is the case. And again, it was always a weird kind of signing when they decided to bring him last summer from League Two. I mean, I know there are some League Two defenders that turns out to do well in MLS, but still, that was kind of a questionable move, bringing him to here, and now it seems like they decided to loan him back to League Two, which I think that sounds about right because last season he was really out of depth when he came in. I will never remember how that disastrous class that he had against the LA Galaxy, and the reason why I will never forget about it is that I literally saw it in person and got a front row seat of that disastrous class that Ethan Bristow has had. Not only giving was at fault with some of those goals, but also got himself sent off in that game. Now, Gadi Kinda, he is going to be returning to Israel with Club Maccabi Haifa FC after Sporting KC announced that they decided to let go of him. I mean, for Gadi Kinda last season, you can kind of see that he even though he just came back from injury, he kind of lost his starting spot, and not to mention with him occupying one of the DP spot. I mean, there was two ways that Sporting KC could approach this. They could either buy him down from that DP contract to a TAM contract, because as I mentioned, his DP contract and the amount that he's earning is not that much, and is eligible to buy down to TAM level. But the other option they could have just done is just kind of let go of him and maybe open up a DP spot and look for a replacement for him. So that's exactly what Sporting KC decided to do, choosing the second option. But still, Gadi Kinda, he's done some really good things with Sporting KC. I mean, when he came to Sporting KC, I knew he was going to be a good player, and he's definitely lived up to that expectation. Albeit that injuries that he suffered just 2 seasons ago, that really killed his career for Sporting KC, because ever since he came back from that injury, he just was never the same, and actually lost his starting spot as a result of that. Now, Orlando City, they are reporting that they're finalizing a deal to sign Nico Ladero off of free agency. Now, obviously, this is kind of interesting because, I thought Nico Ladero, after his day is done with the Seattle Sounders, he was going to go back to his native country, and there was report that he was going to be joining Nasty now and return to his native country. But now it seems like he wants to stay in MLS, and Orlando City might be that team to do so. And considering the fact that his kids love Disneyland, I mean, it kind of makes sense the fact that he wants to go to Orlando and join Orlando City, and especially joining a team that is definitely going to be a contender in the Eastern Conference heading into next season. But that being said, this is kind of a weird move for Orlando City as itself. I mean, I'm not sure if this is a direct replacement for Mauricio Pereira, and if this is the direct replacement for him, I mean, that's kind of underwhelming because, if you're going to sign Nico Ladero, and don't get me wrong, Nico Ladero can still be a good player, especially coming off the bench, but he's definitely lost a step or two compared to the prime Nico Ladero that we saw with the Seattle Sounder a couple of years ago. And that, if you were going to use him as a direct replacement for Maurizio Pereira, you might as well just keep Maurizio Pereira in the first place. I mean, Ladero is 2 years older than Pereira, and that one of the reasons why Orlando decided to let go of Pereira is because he's kind of start to age a little bit, and he's kind of hitting the wrong end of 30s, but they decide to get another player that's kind of on the wrong end of 30s. So I don't think this might be a direct replacement. I won't be surprised Orlando City might potentially get another player to replace Maurizio Pereira, and Lera will most likely act as a player that is a super sub. I mean that's a luxury to bring in the likes of Nico Ladera off your bench if Orlando City is going to go with the route where they're going to still find a player to replace their captain and their heart and soul of that attack. Now, Middlesbrough, Brentford, and Sea of Monterey, also known as Rayados, are all interested to sign FC Cincinnati striker Brandon Vasquez. So, as I mentioned before, Brandon Vasquez, it seems like Brentford might be the team that he be joining. But now there's rumors suggesting that Middlesbrough and Rayados is all interest, and that's according to Tom Boger that mentioned that those are the two teams to join, which is kind of interesting because before there was a report saying that Brentford was going to get him, and that Brandon Vasquez have said that he's not gonna think about going back to Mexico. He's just gonna make that jump straight to Europe. So if that's the case, the Rayados move wouldn't make sense because you want to go to Europe instead of going to Mexico. But that being said, it's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna win the sweepstake. I mean, for Brandon Vasquez, if he wants to continue to develop his career, I mean, Middlesbrough is not a bad team to join. I mean, that's a team that has known to get some good young American, especially the goalkeeping position, because I think Zach Steffen played for that team. If I'm not mistaken, didn't even Horvat play for that team, or was it not Nottingham Forest? Nottingham Forest is definitely another team that seems to love to sign American goalkeeper because they currently have Matt Turner as their goalkeeper. I actually did see him play this morning against Man U, and I gotta say, he kind of had an up and down game. He conceded that bad goal to Rashford earlier, but he made up for it because he made a big save in stoppage time to eventually give Nottingham Forest a big 3 points against Man United. Now the Seattle Sounders, they are close to acquire San Jose Earthquakes defender Nathan. Now this is also kind of interesting because when Nathan comes back to this team, I was really excited for him to be back, and especially creating a good Brazilian back line with him and Rodriguez. But it seems like that might not be the case. It seems like the Sounders want to get him, and that if the price is right, I think the Quakes might be able to accept it. I mean, it is going to be a bit of a loss if they do lose Nathan, but as we saw last season, it's not a death blow. Though I will say that the Quakes definitely need some replacement in the back line, and that again, if they do get a good amount of game out of this deal, they might use that to try to get a defender. I mean, I hope that is the case because that's the thing I worry about the Quakes when they decide to sell a good player, and that later on that turns out to be a mistake. And for the Sounders, it is also kind of an interesting move too because they're pretty good in terms of their depth in their defensive shape. They don't really necessarily need another defender, but why not? Getting a guy like Nathan could be used as a good depth pieces, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to be a regular starter because the regular starter is still going to be potentially Yamar and Jackson Reagan in that two center back partnership for the Seattle Sounders. Now, moving on, Inter Miami. So, yeah, it's not a News of the Week episode, but I'll talk about Inter Miami. There are report to submit an offer for Boca Junior midfielder Christian Medina. So, anytime when you are linked with a Boca Junior player, he's going to be a good player, especially a young Argentine, and that it seems like Inter Miami is looking to get him. And I feel like this might be a replacement for Gregory because there has been report that Gregory potentially is going to go to Brazil, and that they've been desperate to try to find a replacement, and I think this would be a good replacement, albeit that's definitely good. He's got huge shoes to fill in terms of the spot that Gregory filled because this is why I said for Inter Miami last time. As much as I know the offer to sell Gregory might be tempting. I mean, with how he played before that ACL injury that he suffered, he is got to be considered one of the best defensive midfielder in the league. So yeah, again, when you decided to sell him and sign a guy that he has upside, but there's a lot of unknown commodity, it's interesting to see what they're going to do. And that again, if they do decide to sign this guy, I think most likely Gregory might be gone for Inter Miami, and that they indeed are going to accept the offer and sell him off to Brazil. Now, the New England Revolution is set to sign 26-year-old Slovakian goalkeeper Henrik Ravis from Wisla Łódź. So, as I mentioned before, this was a guy I mentioned before a couple of News of the Week episode of of a team potentially signing him, and that team looks like it's the New England Revolution. So yeah, this is not a big surprise because goalkeeping is one area that the Revs needed after they lost Georgi Petrovic in the summer transfer window. And again, I'm gonna say the same thing that I said about Georgi Petrovic when he replaced Matt Turner to what Henrik Ravis is going to be when he replaced Georgi Petrovic. He's got some big shoes to fill, and I would say that his expectation might be even more bigger now because New England is very blessed the fact that they had two really great goalkeeper in their disposal, and now they're hoping that this guy will be just as good. I mean, I don't know how good he is. I haven't heard how good his performance is, and especially he was, even though he's a Slovakian goalkeeper, he never made an appearance with the Slovakian national team. So yeah, again, this is going to be interesting to see. I mean, we'll see if he is going to thrust into that spot again, or are we going to have a goalkeeping competition too, for the New England Revolution, and see whether or not is it going to be him or Earl Edwards Jr. potentially the guy that's going to be the starting goalkeeper for the Revs next season. And then Werder Bremen is reported to express interest in signing midfielder Leon Flock. Now, obviously, the Union, I don't think that they are interested trying to sell Leon Flock just yet, especially with the way that he kind of really dropped down the pecking order in the depth chart, and him going to Werder Bremen. I mean, I don't think that this kind of makes sense, and that I'm pretty sure the Union will really want to hold on to Leon Flock because as much as he wasn't as good as what we saw a couple of years ago. He's still a really valuable depth pieces, and as much as I know the Union is a team that likes to sell some of their best talent, especially guys that come out of their academy, I think they'll probably pass on this move. And then finally, there is actually leaked footage of a potential third kit for LAFC, and I'm actually just going to show you that on my phone right here. What that leak kit is that LAFC is going to be wearing. Let me just try to get it out if I can. Uh, actually, I gotta go to MLS Reddit page because I saw this on the Reddit page here. And speaking of the Reddit page, a move that I've as I'm reading right now on the Reddit page, and I didn't write this on the board. It seems like the Portland Timbers is looking to acquire Kamal Miller in a trade with Inter Miami. Looks like this is reported by Tom Bogert, so that's gonna be interesting to see Kamal Miller going to the Portland Timbers. I mean, the Timbers is a team that desperately need defensive help. I mean, they've been the last couple of seasons some of the poorest team in terms of defending. And I mean, I will also say that Kamal Miller was very underwhelming during his time with Inter Miami. So I mean, I don't know if that's going to be an answer in terms of their backline issue, and it's also going to be interesting to see how much they're gonna get because I would say that when Inter Miami decided to make that Kamal Miller trade in exchange for Bryce Duke and Ariel Lasker last season, I feel like they were kind of on the losing end of that deal because again, Kamal Miller really had a very underwhelming season to a point where he kind of got benched and was dropped down the pecking order because of how poor he has played. But now let me see if I can find the leaked third kit. If I'm not able to find oh, actually it's right here. I found it on a footy headline here. It's actually going to be pulling up on a Twitter page here, or X as it is called now. But yeah, this is basically the leak third kit that LAFC is wearing. So yeah, obviously, it has the black and gold kind of color. It also has the white color. I mean, I mentioned before in terms of LAFC, their third kit idea of going with a Hispanic kind of design. I mean, I don't think this is a Hispanic design. I feel like this looks very retro. It looks like something we see in the 80s and 70s, and that's kind of something that I might mention about third kits is that I won't be surprised teams are gonna go old school, especially for those teams that are celebrating their 50th anniversary in their club history. They're gonna go with kits that are from 1974. But yeah, this is kind of interesting. Some people even said that this looks like a Padres jersey, which I mean it kind of does. I mean the Padres does wear the same color, and it's kind of odd the fact that LAFC decided to go with a Padres color, consider San Diego FC is coming into the league next season. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at this news of the week episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of all these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, minus the Kamal Miller uh, uh, news that I've just mentioned a minute ago. Let me know in the comments below as always. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.